I'll call the meeting to order at 3:01, and let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the board packet was emailed last week. I'm sure everyone had a chance to review it. Any other additions to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented? All those in favor? Aye. Sorry. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, perfect. Item number 2 is citizens' comments. Are there any citizens wishing to be heard?
Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year to you all.
Happy New Year.
My name is Donald Crenshaw, and I'm here to speak on a couple of matters, but I'd like to start off with, I just found online your request for proposals for the ARP New Housing Production Program. I want to applaud you. This is something that I've been looking for. I think it's something that's needed. I think it's a better utilization of the ARP funds than demolition, but there's a need for demolition, and I understand that as well. All of the questions it's asked for in the application, so I won't waste your time to have questions now, but we will be submitting some questions per the proposal. I think the idea that it addresses blighted properties and there's dollars to fix up these properties and at the end of the day make home ownership, that's what I've been doing. It talks about matching funds. We just received December 3rd PHFA funding towards some of these same houses that have been before you. So it's taken almost 2 years to get the funding, but it's in my checking account. So I hope to be one of the lead developers that comes before you and utilize these funds. We've been doing this for 40 years. We have matching funds. So there's some language in here which I'll request clarity when it talks about relationships and taxes and other things that could be very easily, I could say was written for me, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say they're in there for the proposal. But I do look forward to making a request, working with the Redevelopment Authority to fix up vacant, blighted properties. The one thing I want to share with you that just happened this past week, I have 2 properties that the heat is on, the electric's on. They're on the list of houses to be sold. I've had break-ins where people have gone in because the heat's on, the electric's on. They were staying there, and the police had to literally come out and figure out why they're staying there. Last night at 8 o'clock, I had another one of my vacant properties where the utilities are on. Kids go in there to hang out. I'm shutting off the utilities. No heat, no lights is less attractive than for people to come and hang out or homeless to find a place. So under your blight, where you talk about utilities, in the past 25 years, I've cut the electric off, I've cut the water off, I've cut off utilities during the winter months. We winterize, and then come spring, we turn them back on. But you can show a house, you can deal with a house without utilities being on. So I do want to go on the record that one of the things that you guys look at and talk about is these utilities. A lot of vacant buildings that are in the process of being renovated, utilities are not on. So with that, the other thing I would just ask, Mr. Sundberg, 2708 Downing, there was some numbers given to the courts that showed we had outstanding liens and judgments. Your firm satisfied all of those back over a year ago. I've requested that that information be brought forward so I can give to the board. But if you walk across, Buddy Stark was the one that clarified all that, and just show that to the courts there is no debt on that property at all. And I'm sure it'll be something else we talk about. But just getting clarity and trying to get that behind us. The document showed some outstanding liability that is definitely not there. And I would respect the fact that your firm was the one that cleared them up for us if you help us to get that on the record, that there's no debt. And again, as other properties outside of mine that we can work on, individuals that have houses that need help from a developer, general contractor, we will be looking to help those people. So when you look at the blight list, there's some clarity. I want to make sure I ask for in writing what is considered to be applicable under this application when it talks about blight and vacant lots and developments and all. So as a developer, we are excited about this. So guys, whoever brought this forward, good job. Whatever else we can do to have more renovation, home ownership, keeping things on the tax rolls. I will say one other thing. There was a tax credit project that just got sold recently. It was Mr. Kennedy's property. It was 8 units for low to moderate income individuals. I understand they're no longer on the market. They paid the debt off and now they're market rate. That's the one thing that PHFA doesn't like. We're avoiding it because we do preservation. And Mr. Scalise, you're very familiar with the preservation in that program. But there's been just recently units that were affordable for low to moderate income people taken off the availability for low and moderate income people. So I don't think we want to do that. So I'm here to say whatever we can do to keep that low to moderate income individuals in decent affordable housing. We're here to help work with the Redevelopment Authority to do that. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other citizens to be heard in person or online? Hearing none, we'll move down to item C, our finance report. Ms. Decker?
Yes, thank you. So included for your financials, I have provided the profit and loss, which, as you know, has not accurately reflected our financials since we transitioned to QuickBooks Online, which has been extremely frustrating for the past 18 months. We have been, as you know, in the process of transitioning to Blackbaud, which is a fund accounting software. We've gotten to the point where the testing was up and ready for us to do just before the end of last year. So we are in the testing period, and then we have a scheduled to go live on that system next week with Blackbaud. So I also have the balance sheet, and it is showing our total current assets as 9.9 million, slightly over that. And then I also included the list of check dispersed during December.
Questions from any of the board members? So the progress with the Blackbaud is moving ahead then? I know it's an arduous process and not to be taken lightly.
It is, yeah. So we pushed them to fulfill their end of the contract that we were supposed to be live on the 1st, kind of knowing that we wouldn't be able to have adequate testing done for January 1st. But we met with them last week with a conference call and said that we wanted just a little bit more time to test and that we're catching up with them next week, and it's ready to go live on their end. They're just waiting for us to give them the approval.
Very good. And I say that because I've got a lot, the same questions each month. It's in terms of, previous month's activities,
right,
the comparison and so on. And I know that's coming.
It is.
So I won't ask those questions anymore.
Hopefully 2024 is our year for accurate information.
We're gonna start off good. Yeah. So I appreciate the scale and size and all the number of projects and kind of I appreciate it. So, but I think we'll do a more effective job as a board to review once we have the information, the format that
Yeah.
that I know it will be presented. I know it's
Yeah.
not your fault. So, very
Thank
good.
you.
Any questions, comments on finances? If not, is there a motion to accept the financial reports as presented? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Ethan. Let's see, moving on to the Executive Director's Report, item D. I'm sorry, excuse me. Yeah, item D, and apparently the solicitor falls underneath that, so, sorry.
You have before you the report for January 2024. Happy to report that we've kind of woke up a sleeping giant at the Commonwealth Court with regard to those two properties. So they've acknowledged that they were just kind of sitting there. So they're going to send the docket back to the trial court for us to finish those two up. And it's just really a matter of some filings to affirm what the trial court previously decided. So hopefully within the next, I keep saying that, 30 to 60 days, those two are going to come off of your the monthly agenda here. We have received long-awaited and much anticipated report on, I would say, 12 to 14 properties found in our favor with regard to the valuation hearings, but just we'll wait to see what transpires, if any, as a result of that those opinions and orders from Judge Piccinini. We are, and you'll see, we're continuing to prepare and get together the next, future batches. We have a meeting with the Redevelopment Authority office tomorrow at my office to help continue to coordinate those efforts, streamline things so that we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So that's basically what we're reporting with regard to these other properties, pushing them forward in an efficient fashion. We're still trying to make sure that we're accommodating what the expectations are of the court, but also ways to arrive at the goal without any delays. So you'll see, try to lay those out for the various properties. If you see anything that jumps out at you, by all means, let me know. It's a lot going on.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're
All
up
of
to
which
3
is
pages.
good. Yeah, all of which is good, but we're going to start streamlining these back down a little bit.
Great. Any other questions? Mr. Sundberg, we appreciate your staying on top of these, and there's a lot going on.
It's because of the help that I get from here and a dedicated staff member at my office, but a lot of this is a result of Aaron, his staff.
All right, well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now on back to Mr. Snippert and general updates and information.
All right, thank you. So as Mr. Crenshaw alluded to, there are a couple RFPs out on the Redevelopment Authority site currently. One is under the ARPA New Production Program, an RFP seeking developers with the interest to utilize the ARPA funding that was granted to the authority to subsidize the development or rehabilitation of property. So that one's out there with an anticipated initial due date of February 6th, built in there that it's kind of a revolving application process. As applications will be received, those will be put in front of the board with the first batch presented to the board hopefully in February, if we're able to review those and have some that are eligible to be put in front of the board, and then we'll continue to bring those in front of the board until that money is fully allocated. The second RFP that is out is a landscape architect to design the phase 1 part of the East Bayfront Greenway Trail. We got the final process of the plan from Michael Baker. We've started and completed the acquisition of some of the key parcels within that first phase, and They identified really the first major part as phase one, but I'm really looking at phase one as the initial gateway park that will start the trail system. So that's that section from 6th to 7th over to Wallace Street area there is what we're going to focus on initially. That RFP again is due by the end of this month. That will hopefully be in front of the board for approval to enter a contract in February. And then we have been working with Groundwork Erie, City Planning Department. We have a meeting scheduled in the neighborhood the end of February. That'll all coincide with another request that is going out that Aaron has completed, a request for an artist to work with the PA Council of the Arts grant that the ENGP received to bring in artwork into the park trail network.
So do you feel that you'll get good responses on that second RFP?
The landscape?
Yeah.
I think we will. I've
Okay.
sent it out to a few local companies and organizations and hope that they will respond to it. We will always end up getting a couple out of Pittsburgh and Cleveland that, always end up responding when we put the ad in the paper. So we'll see what we get. We'll go from there.
Good, yeah. And, the whole, educating the public and using charrettes to, work that out. So I'm sure we're included in that.
Yeah, and Michael Baker, under their plan, did a substantial amount of, design charrettes and
Yes.
stuff like that. So really now we're at that point of what really needs to be put into that park. What does the public want to see? We certainly know safety is a big concern, lighting, things like that. So, but, as far as benches, we'll leave that totally up to them. So. And then the only other thing I have is Erie Neighborhood Growth Partnership. It's kind of been status quo for about the last 18 months. We really haven't had a meeting. We met and kind of had a study session back about a month and a half ago. We're looking to have kind of a relaunch meeting in February in the evening time. The board will get an invite when we have that scheduled. Just kind of to take a step back, reorganize the board and see what still exists, and then move forward and truly define the mission of the ENGP as we work to go, into the 2024.
And remind me the relationship between the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Erie and the Neighborhood Growth Partnership.
So the Erie Neighborhood Growth Partnership is the authority's 501c3.
Okay.
So,
And does the authority have a appointee to that other board?
an appointment to.
The
So under the ENGP's bylaws, the executive director of the Redevelopment Authority acts as president, finance director acts as treasurer, and then the board is appointed as an up to maximum of 20 members.
Okay.
So typically a authority board member was an appointed member of the board historically.
So that's the connection. That's
Yes.
is through even.
Through the staff
Okay.
and then a board member as a voting member of the board.
Just trying to figure out the engagement part between all the pieces.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
So, all right.
And that is all I have.
Okay. Any questions to Mr. Snippert?
I have a quick one.
Yes, sir.
So for Aaron, you mentioned public art as a possibility on the Greenway Trail. Is that something that the city would be doing the purchasing and paying for, or is that something that the Redevelopment Authority is paying for? And if the latter, is there an identified funding source for it? Would that be the ARPA funds or something else?
Right, so ENGP was awarded a 4-year, $100,000 grant from the PA Council of the Arts. So $25,000 a year for the next 4 years. That first initial $25,000 will cover the art within this initial phase, which, really, our thoughts high level right now are kind of a gateway installation on the 6th Street corridor, identifying, the Greenway Trail and its starting point. And then it'll work on whatever other art installations are incorporated between the artist and the landscape architect when they are identified. But to answer your question,
Okay, thank you.
100% covered by grant.
Good question. Any further questions? Great, thank you. Moving on to item E, unfinished business, and as mentioned, we have a resolution ahead of us for CDBG funding requests.
All right, yes, so every year, City of Erie puts out a request for the use of CDBG funding. Historically, over the years, and I don't have all of the numbers, but the Redevelopment Authority applies for rehabilitation funding and previous year's acquisition and disposition. For really, to shorten it up, the HUD had kind of changed that acquisition and disposition kind of needed a plan, what the plan for that property was. So we kind of stopped utilizing that. For many years, that was the only money that the Redevelopment Authority had for blighted property acquisition was CDBG funding. And then so it was minimal, and we utilized it, as best we could. And then housing rehabilitation, we had utilized, but currently we have the Healthy Homes program, we have the lead hazard control program. So housing rehabilitation isn't really a big factor for us right now. We don't really need those funds. We're still kind of trying to work through how we would look at that as far as administrative costs go. So this resolution, and Chuck had emailed me a question. Last year we did not apply for any CDBG funding. Currently we do not have an open contract for CDBG. So it's the first year in many that we don't have that. The requirement for homeowners to have a 5-year lien on their property when we have a substantial amount of ARPA funding that doesn't require that. It doesn't require administrative costs. They don't have to bring any money to closing. There's no lien. Nobody wanted this money during 2020, late 2022, early 2023, so we didn't apply for it last year. But this resolution, and I left housing rehabilitation and lead on there because as I work through the application process, there might come a point where maybe I would want to throw in a request for $50,000 just to have it, if there's an individual. So I wanted it on there. The big part of this is that given that we have the East Bayfront Greenway Trail project, we've completed the plan, we have all of that, so we have that end use for the money. So given the change in HUD's oversight of that use of the funding, we have that now. So we could put in a request to the city to utilize some acquisition and disposition money for the acquisition of properties within the Greenway Trail, because the end use is that it will be a trail system, hopefully handed over to the City of Erie as a park network within that neighborhood. So that satisfies that requirement. So that is the biggest ask that I plan to put through to the city for CDBG funding, would be to, leverage that funding with the money from the city for the Bayfront Greenway Trail.
And are personnel expenses or overhead expenses of the authority eligible to include in that request?
There is some administrative costs that will be able to come out of that. There's not very much. Historically, it was minimal, but there is some. But it's the perfect time to leverage it against that $1.5 million.
Absolutely, every little bit counts. As we trying to build financial capacity for the organization. Yeah. Okay, good. I know some people are shy to ask for the administrative. I don't be shy. We have people to pay, right? Right. So, all right. Any questions of Mr. Snippert then? I appreciate the additional information. That is helpful.
Absolutely.
Aaron, do we have a dollar amount, or is that fluid?
It's fluid. Typically, I was looking at around about $100,000. And historically they can come back and change that amount, as with any grant request. They could lower that, but I was looking at about $100,000. That would approximately get us the acquisition and disposition of about 4 or 5 properties. Not a substantial ask, but at least something to leverage at this point and see what their appetite is for that funding.
Yeah, and I used to know how much the allocation was for the city. Is it?
Oh, total pay.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is this year. Yeah.
And it fluctuates, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? We have
I'm
sorry. Yes, please.
Sorry about that. There's a big delay here. For the request, would we need to put forth like a list of addresses, or is it kind of like a license to hunt for a certain number of properties?
Historically, it was basically a designated area within the city was identified within the contract, and then again, historically, it was blighted properties located within the designated areas identified within the contract. So we would certainly put in there the East Bayfront Greenway Trail target area as the identified area, and of course, it would be, acquisition of abandoned, vacant, and deteriorated properties.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe we just request, as the proposal evolves and so on, updates, as your, but you have to get the foot in the door in order to,
Yeah, applications are due the end of January.
Okay.
As soon as I have the proposal together, I can forward that on to the board prior to submission to the city to get any response to that. Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be good. Okay, thank you, and thank you, Ian. So we now have a resolution in front of us. Is there a motion to accept the resolution as presented and with the additional discussion we've had? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any abstains or any nays? Hearing none, motion approves unanimously.
Easy for you to say.
Easy for me to say. All right, item number 2 are the program goals and expectations for 2024.
All right, so I just kind of, wanted to give the board at least a update on where our programs are, what my goals are for the authority for 2024, and kind of open it up that if there's anything the board would look for from the authority over 2024 to kind of give us, and to use one of Gene's marching orders for 2024. So as far as program goals, certainly LHRD program, the original grant request was scheduled to expire in July of this year. Like I said, we had a monitoring audit last year. We received high marks on our files. Also, with the changing tides across programmatic funding, for housing rehabilitation, they certainly agree with us to modify our original benchmarks, our budget, and submit that with a 1-year calendar extension to that grant. So we're going to complete that paperwork here this month, get that off to HUD, and get the extension granted through July of 2025 so that we can continue to expend as much of that $3 million grant as we can, given the issues we have with lead abatement contractors. But so that's a programmatic goal there, is to get that program moving through the end of this year and get some more contractors, lead-based paint certified, moving forward. Healthy Homes program, again, by the end of this year, with all of our ARPA programs, we have to have the funding allocated. So we're looking through 2024 here to get the applicants that we need to satisfy the funding request under that program approved, letters of commitment out to them, so that then we can continue to work on them through the December 2026 deadline. That goes the same with blighted properties. We're going to look to identify the blighted properties that we seek to acquire, so that we can continue to work on those, post December 31st of this year through December 2026. So again, that's just a thing. I know the city's going to be looking hard at our programs, the money that we've spent, the money that we have allocated by mid-year, so that they can make any changes that they feel necessary to make sure that money is spent and allocated by December 31st of this year. Certainly we all sit on the same platform where we don't want to give any of this money back, and certainly I don't want to give any of it back to the city. So we will make whatever moves we need to make that money allocated to our programs by the end of this year. County programmatic funding, whole home repair program is finally getting up and running. We're processing applications. Just there was a lot of coordination between the county, changes in guidelines, and so now that we're into the new year, we're looking to process those applications and work on that tiered system that was identified by the county executive under the whole home program. Constantly changing, as that is ARPA funding through the state and it's federal funding ultimately. Everything keeps changing, and even at Homes Within Reach, the program director for the whole home program for the state brought out some different changes, an email that they had received, so we're going to keep looking at that and make the adjustments we need to move that program forward, along with all of the other funding that we have between McCain CDBG, Act 137 housing rehab, and continue to work on that outreach to those areas.
And I'm just going to interrupt for just a
Yeah.
second, if I may, because I've been part of a conversation out in the counties. Are the county applicants coming in or not?
Not as much as we would
Would
like,
yeah.
and so I think that's another goal for this year, and is to enhance our collaboration with
Yeah.
the municipal governments,
Yeah.
and maybe bring ourselves to their areas, and hopefully attract some of those people who may not want to enter the city of Erie, who think that it's the city of Erie, it's not Gerard Borough or Albion Borough or whatever the case would be, and
Yeah.
try to eliminate some of those hurdles that might be preventing them from wanting to apply.
And I mentioned that for the benefit of all board members. I mean, we tend to think of our focus area as the city of Erie, but this particular program reaches out to about 2/3 of the county. And if you've traveled through Erie County, you know how large it is, and the cultural, differences and so on in terms of how to apply for it, whether I apply for a grant or something. So I just, was supporting you that this is a task that we're stepping out of our comfort zone, but, helping to serve a larger population, which is commendable.
Yeah, it's something we certainly, and over the years, we've had sporadic funding, for different municipalities. Of course, the lead grant's been countywide for a while, but we historically have seen that low number from the county population. So we certainly want to do what we can we know there's a need. We between what the county land bank sees as far as the properties they're acquiring and what we see when we're out there, we know there's a need. So, but I think, as far as that community outreach and engagement, we're just going to look to do what we can to make ourselves more accessible to the public. We certainly want to eliminate as many hurdles to applications and access to funding as we possibly can, specifically to individuals that might not have the means to get to City Hall, the means to electronic devices to download applications or get things from required sources that they would have. And so we try to keep it as accessible as possible. So that's a big goal for this year, is just to continue to grow that accessibility to our programmatic sources. So I think I will stop there and kind of hand it off to the board for questions, thoughts.
It would be great if we could kind of memorialize everything then, because that sets up, the goals obviously for the organization, which helps performance goals for all of us then, and delivering on what we promises and so on. So if we can use that, as we start doing better with objective measures.
Yeah, I can certainly put something together in draft memo form to the board as far as what I just discussed. Certainly that was kind of a goal of mine by today, but that didn't quite happen. So I will definitely get that into memo form to the board so that you kind of have something to hold on to.
I think so. Anything else for Mr. Stibbert before we move on? Any other business? Any other old business, unfinished business? Monkey business? No, just kidding. Are we allowed to have fun here? I never know.
Yeah.
I never know.
We're in the less formal setup.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Just want to make sure and everything. So, do you have just a moment? I know that you presented at the Homes Within Reach conference in December. I was hoping to go. I didn't make it, obviously. So, any other insights and so on? And I'm told there was a record number of people, like 900 people or something.
There was, and I certainly, it was a good conference. I think our presentation went well. We definitely generated some good questions, some good comments, definitely some connections out of that.
Yeah.
There's some connections, I think, with the City Code Enforcement Office, and just I think it's going to be beneficial for them out of this as we all continue to work through, this vacant, abandoned, interior property issue that we're seeing statewide and nationally. So the conference was good. It was a larger conference than it has been the past several years. They put us into the larger portion of the conference area there. So it was good. Some good sessions. I think, it was a little less on the healthy home side of it as it had been the past couple years, which I think could have been done a little bit better. I think there's certainly a drive toward healthy homes. 2 years ago, UPMC was very much a part of Homes Within Reach, and this year I think they were almost non-existent. So certainly hope that, as we go through this year and that Healthy Homes focus, we can continue to push toward that and make that a focus of everything. But overall, it was a good conference, and I think we all learned, something, while we were there.
I'm happy you took the time to, get out of Dodge a little bit and travel to the Emerald City and, or I guess, we used to be in Hershey, or Harrisburg.
Chocolate
This
City.
was Chocolate City this time, but and it's good to also meet your peers across the Commonwealth then and share ideas and develop your those important networks. And quite frankly, I'm a little competitive. I like when Erie shows up to things. I think our state government needs to see us present, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, we kind of forgotten North up here in the
A
corner.
little forgotten sometimes. So
Yeah.
the 5+ hour drive is, not, we made it. So thank you for that. I appreciate the updates.
Thank you.
Any other business before we adjourn into executive session? Do we have Ian's telephone number in case we want to patch him through on his cell phone?
I do not. Ethan, would you
Ethan, I'm
mind
sorry, I keep on calling you
putting
Ian,
your
forgive me.
cell phone number in the chat so we can give you a call in executive session?
Yes.
Thanks, Ethan.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.